What's up, everybody? It's been a long time since I've done one of these updates. Probably 3 months now, I'd say. I'm gonna give a little update on the cooler though. I've had it going, everything was good. I wasn't completely done with it. I still haven't done the divider, but I had everything wired up, all the electronics worked, radio's going, charger, voltmeters, everything was working great. But took it out on the boat a couple times, and then on my last trip, everything worked great. Like out on the boat, the radio was great. It was so loud, such good bass, clean sound, and playing it for like 8+ hours on like 75% volume. The battery was barely discharged at all. I was blown away. Like I came in, plugged it on the charger, and like within an hour, it was fully charged. But anyways, on our last trip, a couple of our buddies drank, and then when we were unloading it off the truck, when I was dropping them off, I drove. I didn't drink, so I drove. I needed one of them to help me lift it, because the thing weighs probably 200+ pounds, and it's too awkward to lift, but with one person. When we set it down, somehow it shook to the side, like, it leaned over like it was about to fall over. So the battery, kind of did one of these, like leaned way forward, and it didn't do anything. Like nothing broke, nothing shorted out or anything like that. But ironically enough, before that happened, this made me think that something happened, but before that happened, after we had got off the boat and we're packing up, the radio had died. I had shut it off, and long story short, I lost my phone. We were looking for my phone, and I was trying to turn the radio on to see if it would connect to the Bluetooth, so that way I knew that we were at least within reason of where my phone might be. And it didn't connect. Well, no, I'm sorry. It didn't power on. And the radio was basically brand new. It had only been used for, 3 or 4 different short trips, a couple hours here and there. But yeah, it wouldn't turn on, so I thought it was a bad switch. I thought one of these went bad because they're cheap. I've had a million bad ones. But the radio wouldn't turn on, so I was like, okay. So we get home, that happened, it shook, battery moved, and I had lifted the lid up to make sure everything was cool when I flipped it back over. Excuse me. And I smelled some electrical. I was like, oh, what is that? It smelled like something was burning. So I quickly, undid these and got all the wires off, so, nothing was getting power. And I still smelled it, but nothing was hot, no wires were warm, there was no smoke. So I'm like, it wasn't something that just now happened, it was something that obviously happened a while ago. But anyways, I brought it inside, I forgot about it for the day, I dropped them off, we got our cars situated, and I came back home and I was like, okay, I want to figure out what that was. I don't want this thing to like bust up in flames or something. I could not figure it out, nothing was out of the ordinary, but the radio still wouldn't turn on. And normally the radio's right here sticking out pretty far, and when I was standing up I could smell that burning smell really strong. So I put my nose up to the radio, and it was definitely coming from the radio. So I undid it, I unhooked it, I slid it out, I undid the couple screws to get the the metal cover case off or whatever, and sure as hell a couple, I don't know, resistors or something like that were on the board were just completely black. They shorted out or something like that somehow. So right now there's no radio, and it's kind of like a blessing in disguise, because that radio was really heavy. It was really nice, but it was kind of old. It was a older model, so there's like a lot better, more efficient, smaller, lighter ones out now. That was a mechless one, meaning it didn't have CD, but it was still full size. Like it came out to probably here, and when I would close this, it would hit right there on that speaker. The RCAs would bump it, so that was kind of annoying. Plus it was really heavy, so this thing really didn't stand up on its own. I was gonna have to make some kind of like hook up here. But anyways, with the TV and the lid, the TV's normally right there. I've also got a auxiliary cord that's gonna go through here and go down and come into the back of the radio, because that radio had rear USB and auxiliary inputs. I hate front inputs. they bother me. I don't like cords hanging around. Ironically, I got cords everywhere. But on the radio, I hate having front inputs. And no big deal, you can find radios with rear inputs, but none of the JVC models I wanted have rear inputs. Okay, go to a different brand, right? Well, I got this thing that was like 60 bucks, and you know, it's hardwired in. It's the you know, little marine remote that was right here. It's waterproof and all that. I used it quite a bit, but I was thinking, you know, it would be so much better if I had a wireless remote. You know, be far away, because when we were on the boat, this cooler is like on the front of the boat, and to adjust the volume, I gotta walk all the way up to it and, you know, hit the buttons or whatever. But I was like, man, I got a hole drilled for this thing. I got wires ran. Oh well, no big deal. It's a small hole. This is just like a sticker. I just heat it up and it'll peel right off. So what I'm gonna do, just to match these, I'm gonna get, because I am curious of the voltage without having to open it up, because the voltmeter's right there. I'm gonna get a circular, I think it's a little bit bigger than these, but it's a, you know, a little digital voltmeter. So that's gonna go right here. I'm gonna just, you know, take this out, throw this on eBay or whatever. So that's gonna go there. That's gonna take care of this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get, see that little remote sensor right there? That is for the LEDs. I'm gonna get, it's a pack, I think it's called an IR-X. And what it is it's one of these, but it's on both ends. It goes into a little box, and then it has an output, which is another one of these, which will mount somewhere just right by the radio. Or, I mean, I could even put it up on the lid, but, you know, that'd be a lot of extra wiring. So it's just gonna go somewhere by the radio, and what it does, it takes the remote, instead of the radio seeing it, the little sensor reads it, sends it all the way through those cables to this sensor, which outputs it to the radio. So it's like it'll let you use the remote, you know, like if you were to put your head unit, you know, in like your glove box or some kind of custom build where it doesn't have a good line of sight. So I'm gonna get one of those. Those are cheap. I got one in my Explorer right now because I did an iPad in there, and my radio is now in the glove box. Those are like 20 bucks. A little voltmeter's like probably 10, give or take. But the most expensive part right now, I found a radio I want. It's a Pioneer, and it's the mechless one, so it's only like this deep versus, you know, way down here, and it's way lighter. These things, I got one similar to it in my car, and they weigh almost nothing. They're so light. So this is still gonna be light. It's gonna cut down a little bit on the weight overall, and it's not gonna rub on anything. So when I close it, it's just gonna, you know, nicely close like that, instead of having to reach my hand in here and kind of like push the head unit to get it to actually close. Another thing that I realized was, I needed fuses. I just going straight to the battery, it works obviously, but it's really stupid. If something does happen, you know, if this thing were to fall over and this battery moved, because now I'm gonna strap the battery down, but you know, a good enough fall, this battery's still gonna move, you know, it could pull wires or whatever. I had this thing, which you see, it's a 8-way fuse holder. It takes 8 fuses, and it's got, you know, your input and your output. That's 8 input wires and 8 output wires, you know, and having that would just be so much extra wiring, having to wire a power for each and every one of these individual connectors. I finally found, I don't know why I couldn't find before, but I finally found one that takes one input and divides it through all of them. So let me pop this off. It's got this little button up here, and this just pops off. It's a really nice thing, and it was only like 20 bucks. You got one input, so I'm gonna take one run of power wire, just like this amp wire right here, which is gonna go from the battery to there, just like that. I'm gonna get, you know, obviously I gotta get a washer to compensate for that tiny nut that's on there. But it goes on there like that, and it splits that connection through each one of these, and there's 10. So what I want to do, you know, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For each one, it takes a fuse. So, you know, if I got LEDs on it, I can do a real small, you know, like a 1 or a 2 amp fuse, something like that. You know, and then some for like the amp or the radio, I do like a 10 amp fuse. You know, the bigger LED pods, you know, like a 5 amp or something like that. I'll figure out what, you know, each one is. That's just random ones off the top of my head, but basically, you know, that this bar comes up through here and it divides into each one, and to get power out to this little thing, you just put the fuse in. So now basically, if something were to happen, or if, you know, one of the electronics failed or internally had a problem, all that would simply happen is the fuse would pop, and I would know right away because these lights light up if the fuse is popped, which is really cool. So basically now, you know, for each component I just put a little spade connector, which I don't know if I have any. Here's one, just one of these little connectors. It just goes on something like that. It's hard to do with one hand, but it goes on something like that. So, and I can bend them out, you know, keep the wiring clean. But basically, I'm not mad that anything happened because one, it gave me the opportunity to redo it, put this in there. Right here before used to be the fan controller, for the fan I got down there, and then the wireless switch was right here, which I had turned on the radio and voltmeter and stuff. That thing was cool, but the issue was, that's what this is right here. You know, press a button. It had 4 switches. You know, A was the radio, which turned the voltmeters on. B was one of the LEDs at the bottom. C was the other LED pod in the front. And then D was this little music LED panel right here that, you know, dances with the music. It was cool, but there were 2 things. One, this remote's ugly as hell. That's not one of the things though. But this remote was always with the cooler. I did not ever want to lose this, so I always had it like clamped on right there, or I had it sitting on the front. So I always had to come in the cooler to turn something on or off. B, this remote gets 0 range when this cooler is closed. Let me show you the little tiny antenna this thing's got. And I could definitely modify it. I pulled the coil apart a little bit, but that's the antenna right there, that black coiled wire. I didn't really feel like drilling a hole and, you know, soldering more wire on to be able to get that antenna outside of the cooler to actually work. That's just too much work, especially since everything I turn on, I come to the cooler anyways. So I've got plenty of switch room up there, so I'm gonna just run all manual switches. You know, it's gonna be like radio, USB chargers, and 12-volt outlets. Well, the radio is going to do the voltmeter and the temperature thing, so that's going to be 3. The USB ports and 12-volt outlets, the TV, probably one of each of the LED pods. This one would be, let's see what else, the TV, or no, maybe I already said the TV. I don't remember, but I got plenty of room for everything I need. And if not, I can definitely add a couple switches in front, which would be kind of nice for the LEDs and stuff. That way, cooler could be closed, I could click it on real quick. I wish I could shorten this stupid wire. It's a ribbon cable for the LED music controller. See, something like this, it's got its own switch. The underglow LEDs, the remote turns them on and off, so I don't need those on a switch. Trying to think what else. I mean, that's really it so far. Those LEDs up there work great. It lights up everything. Those LEDs work great. You open up that lid, this is like daylight in here. While I got everything gutted, I'm going to take the opportunity to cut another channel out, and then hopefully get the other cutting board. I got one right there. I need to cut them, you know, to be able to fit, and then finally get this area sealed off. At least get that done for now, and then figure out something with the speakers. I'm thinking, I thought about doing some kind of like just bowl around them. A lot of people just do like a, almost like a Tupperware thing or something like that, but see, these have this area right here. That makes that a pain in the ass, because that's just more extra cutting I gotta do. So I'm thinking I'm gonna do a 3rd cutting board, maybe, you know, about right here, because that's still a lot of cooler space. That's a whole case, you know, it's a case of 20 beers, you know, some waters, some pops, and plenty of ice, you know, all this area right here. That's still probably 40 or so quarts, I'd guess. And then I'm gonna have to still do a drain plug. Trying to think of the best way to do that, because over here you can see there's a dip, so all the water would run down there into the drain plug, whereas over here there's no dip. So I'm gonna have to try to fabricate something, because this isn't a cooler that you can just tip on its side and drain out. I might even do some kind of cutting board at the bottom and then put the drain plug right in there. Maybe, like, you know, put it like on an angle or something like that. I don't know. That's still, I'm not even worried about that part yet. I just want to get the electronics done, get it separated off and filled with foam. I'm also going to fill this little lid with foam because this does rattle after a while. Really only when it gets hot, like when it's in the sun. You know, the plastic kind of gets softer and then it starts to rattle. So everything else is insulated, but this isn't. Sides are, everything. But I don't think I had this carpeted in my last video either. That carpet was night and day. I wish I could do something with these hinges too, like find some hinges that I could mount at the bottom, but I don't know if it would open right. I think that's it. I'm kind of thinking about wiring these onto another switch like that, to where they're not on, you know, when the radio's on, but when I open the lid, they would come on. And then close the lid, they turn off. I think that would be kind of cool. But, there's a TV right there. It's still going good. Everything worked great. We used this for a couple hours one night at a hotel we stayed at. That was fun. There's one of the LED pods. This thing is crazy when I bring it out in public. You almost can't even enjoy it because you get so many people just coming right up to it asking questions, but it's pretty sweet. Maybe somebody will make me an offer one day that I can't refuse and I could, you know, actually make some money on this, but I doubt it because I got a hell of a lot of money into it and even more elbow grease putting this thing together. So yeah, hopefully. I haven't ordered the radio yet. I almost forgot. I'm trying Wi-Fi in here. Wi-Fi audio streaming over Bluetooth, because Bluetooth is nice. It's good quality. You know, it connects pretty quick, but it's kind of a pain in the ass on most radios because you got to sit there and go through the menu to connect a new phone or something like that. So when we got our buddies around and, you know, we all want to switch phones, like, oh, here, I got some music I want to play. And then you got to open up the cooler, stop the music, go through the settings and connect and stuff like that. So I ordered this little, it's almost like a Chromecast, but it's just for audio, and it connects through Wi-Fi. Like, it broadcasts a network. You connect to it on your phone, and then it takes the audio just like Bluetooth and puts it through the radio. It connects to the radio with, you know, like an auxiliary cord or RCA cable, whatever. But the benefits of that, the sound quality is night and day. Bluetooth doesn't sound bad, but the Wi-Fi has zero quality loss. Bluetooth always has a little bit of loss. You might not notice it, you know, if you're not an audiophile, but I heard one side by side and it was like night and day. The Bluetooth didn't even sound bad, but the Wi-Fi was 1,000 times better. And better sound usually means it's, you know, got a lot better clarity and it's louder. You know, Bluetooth degrades it a little bit and it's a bit quieter. And the Bluetooth doesn't go that far. Once I got the cooler closed, you know, and I walk like 15, 20 feet away, it's starting to skip and cut out. And especially, like, and that's like a clear line of sight. You know, if I walk like behind a wall or around the corner, it just completely cuts out. So that was really annoying. So the Wi-Fi should go a lot farther because Wi-Fi can go through walls and stuff like that. So that should help a lot. Plus, it was only like 18 bucks. And I think the brand was like Sabrient or something like that. It just takes a little USB cord to power it. And yeah, so that's going to be pretty sweet. I will do an update when I get all that stuff done. I got to buy the head unit. And I found one, I think it's the Pioneer MVH like X590 BT or something like that, or X510. It's mechless, so it's just Bluetooth, AM, FM, USB, and auxiliary. But the USB and auxiliary inputs are in the back, so that's really crucial for this, because I do not want that TV, because the TV is plugged in through the auxiliary, so obviously the audio comes through here, because why would you want the TV audio when you got 4 awesome speakers? You know, I don't want the radio sitting here with a cord sitting here coming through plugged into it. That would just be tacky. It would annoy the hell out of me. So I have to have a rear input for the TV, but I'm going to split it for the Wi-Fi audio as well. So obviously it'll be either TV or Wi-Fi audio. And that's where I'm at as of now. The thing works great though. I love it. We wheeled it through rocks and some sand and dirt and grass, and it just, these wheels are awesome. It goes through anything. Without these wheels, this thing would be awesome, but it would be a pain in the ass to move around. Alrighty, thanks for watching. Okay, so right now, cleaning the wiring up. I got this thing out. You see, it's had a power and ground, which was these two right here. It's power, ground, and then the remote wire. It's having a total brain fart there. 3-wire connection, power and ground. You know, obviously gives it power, and it lights it up. So you want that to be switched with the radio. And then I just had mine wired in with the radio's power and the ignition wire, so it came on when the radio was on. And then the remote wire obviously controls it, but so that's 3 wires gone. That's all this wiring right there. Right now I've got right here between where this is, these two, there's gonna be 2 walls right here, cutting board just like this, and it's gonna be filled with like that great stuff, expanding foam. So I'm gonna run a lot of my wiring through that area, like this stuff right here. It's gonna go right through that area, so that'll hide a lot of it. Well, actually, not a lot of it, but this stuff. I've got a 12-volt socket, which, you know, you can use for a power inverter or phone chargers or whatever. And then I've got a dual USB charger. And then up here, to match these two and just kind of keep those, you know, circular theme going, I'm gonna have a digital voltmeter. So I've got the leads for that. I can cut these down, and that'll go in there. And then all that'll be hidden, you know, from like here over. I took the battery out. This is just like some squishy stuff, just kind of like not insulate, but keep the battery from bouncing around a lot or anything like that. Just kind of some cushion. I've got over here, I've got the LED wire coming up for the LED panel thing on the front, and then this is the radio antenna, and then over here we got the 4 speaker outputs and the amp remote wire, which is this black one here. Those are all zip tied up, tucked under the amp, and they come through over here, which, you know, this is all going to be zip tied, and then you know, some kind of like wire loom or something. And I had a whole lot, let's see if I can spin this around. I had a whole lot of extra speaker wire here, and I decided to cut out like a void in this foam and actually pull all the extra wire in, because, you know, we don't need it hanging out there. So basically it just kind of tucks in there. Then the speaker plugs in and gets screwed in. I gotta get some bigger screws for the speaker. What I'm gonna do right now, what I have going, I don't know if you can see that. Where's that? There it is. Those little metal clips that come with the speakers, that you can kind of screw into. Right now I kind of got in, I think at least 2 or 3 out of every speaker screw. I've got those in there, so, you know, it gets nice and snug. But what I'm gonna do is get a screw that's a little bit bigger and long enough to go through the back, so I can get a bolt and a nut on the back of it and just, you know, have no worries about. I don't worry about these things falling out now, but this will just increase the strength by, you know, 100%. So for a couple bucks, it'll be a nice upgrade. I gotta zip tie those still, but I got that wire out of the way. Just, I want to, now that I'm permanently wiring this thing up, I want it really clean and really organized, because this is gonna be like my showcase cooler. I don't ever plan on selling this one, but when people see this thing, I get all the questions like, oh man, you know, what could you build me? You know, I got this much. What could I get? You know, can you build me something like that? So this one's kind of gonna showcase everything I can do. I've got the onboard charger, I've got the fuse box, I've got the radio, the voltmeters, the switches, the LEDs that are on a magnetic switch that turn on automatically. You know, I've got an amp, I've got 4 big speakers, I've got LEDs, I've got LED, you know, spotlights, I've got underglow. So I'm pretty much doing everything that I possibly can. I don't know if I showed this in another video, but there's my antenna. It goes across the span of the whole thing. It was a powered one, which you wire in like with the antenna, like a power antenna wire on the radio or the amp remote. But the issue was when it turned on, the signal completely cut out. I didn't have it wired backwards or anything like that. I get decent reception with no power going to it, and then when I would turn the power onto it, it would completely go to all static on every channel. So I did away with that. I cut the power leads off, so I just got, it's like, you know, just basically a low profile antenna now. You can't really tell it's there. I didn't really want to do like a mast antenna because they're just bulky. I would have got a lot better reception with it. So, you know, it's definitely a possible upgrade for the future, but I didn't want all that extra stuff, you know, hanging out. You know, I wanted the cooler to kind of be contained. You know, as much as I love these little pod lights, I don't like those because, you know, it's just extra bulk. So, you know, if I could get like some flush mount ones, that would be awesome. Which, again, is definitely a future possibility. But, yeah, you know, I got the built-in charger, you know, all that, and I've got the actual cooler space that's going to work. So this is going to be like my showcase build. So I want this thing to shine. I want this thing to be clean. You know, I want the wiring to look awesome. You know, the fuse panel is going to look nice. You know, I might put in, I'm probably going to take this back out and carpet the bottom of it. That way it looks just as good as the top. I'm going to try to do away with these hinges and do something at the bottom so, you know, once it's closed you don't see those. Or maybe at least paint this part white and this part black or something. I'm not sure yet, but, you know, this cooler is just going to showcase everything, so I'm just going to spend a couple days rewiring everything and cutting out extra wire, zip tying everything, you know, some nice wire loom. I'm going to get something probably even better than this, but, you know, just keep it really, really, really clean. And it's going to take a long time, but it'll be worth it in the end. So that's where I'm at now. Show you a little update.